Well, we have talked a lot about the coronavirus, this program, but let's look at it from a different angle. Is there some kind of religious or spiritual meaning that can be derived from the experience of the pandemic? And if so, are there common threads that can be drawn from the reactions of faith leaders of different religions? Well, that's the point of an online project dubbed Coronaspection, or introspection, I should say, organized by the Jerusalem-based Elijah Interfaith Institute that recruited prominent religious figures to discuss the theological issues raised by the coronavirus. Here's some of that.
For the first time since 1208.
There's a specific verse of the Quran that says you will be tested by fear and hunger and calamity and everything that you worked for evaporating.
These moments are universal.
We can no longer pretend that we're an isolated individual just concerned about ourselves.
Corona has given this little idea for us to stop and think.
Well, joining us now from Jerusalem is Rabbi Dr. Alon Goshen-Gottstein. He is the executive director of the Elijah Interfaith Institute. Rabbi, thanks for joining us. I was looking some of the videos, and one thing that struck me was a comment that because of the coronavirus, a lot of the, let's say, religious instruction or religious prayer has moved to the internet through Zoom and other factors, and that perhaps has maybe made this kind of interfaith dialogue more possible because it's actually getting people out of the physical structures, be it of a temple, a mosque, or a church, into a forum where they can communicate more with each other. I mean, what's your response to that?
Thank you. I think I'm talking to Caleb because I can't see who I'm talking to.
Yes,
you are.
Yes, it is.
Hi. So listen, Caleb, it's a rich and diverse thing. You know, when you interview 40 religious leaders from different traditions about the spiritual meaning of the moment, lots of stuff comes up. So it's really I appreciate your digging to this treasure, which is really a treasure for all people to try and find meaning in this time. And one of the things that Coronaspection does is to give us a glance at how religion is unfolding and changing during these times. What you see is not just the move from physical space to virtual space. I think what you see is a redefinition of community. What's happening is that communities are opening up in new ways as a consequence. So communities that were previously defined by going into a contained space, a house, become larger, more flexible, more dynamic, and as a consequence of that, also to a certain extent more interreligious. So we do find situations where events, programs, even of a religious nature, because they go online, they start inviting other people, and they create also opportunities for meeting for people across religions. So I would say that the corona situation, it's taking the basic drive, it's putting it into a new mode, a new gear, and that's probably going to contribute a little bit to how religion is shifting.
Right. Now, you certainly have impressive diversity and impressive figures such as Pope Francis. One thing I was also struck, one tragedy like this on a global level strikes, there's always the question of, is this somehow divinely ordained, or can we even fathom God's will? Looking across the spectrum, I mean, what is your impression of how faith leaders are dealing with that question?
I would say on the whole, there was a strong resistance to claiming that this is punishment. At one or 2 points, if you look at the interview with Professor Said Hossein Nasser, he was willing to entertain that. I get those comments from people responding to the Coronaspection project. On the whole, people avoided it. They would prefer one of two options. Either God is doing it, but not as punishment, and therefore a very common perspective was it's a warning, or it's a test, or it's an opportunity, so God is doing. So that, for instance, Wahiduddin Khan, one of the most important Indian Muslim religious leaders, he took the stand. It's not a curse. It's a warning. So it's related to our activities, but not punishment. The other extreme was, say, Archbishop of Canterbury or Rabbi Jonathan Wittenberg, both of London, who say, you know, not necessarily God is doing it, but it's happening. We have to now respond. So it's a question of how comfortable people are bringing it close or far to God. And I would say there's a broad spectrum. I think the important thing to point here is that the spectrum doesn't break down by religions.
Right.
It's not that one religion holds one way, another religion holds another.
We do have to end there, Rabbi Alon Goshen-Gottstein. Thank you for joining.